Kumusta, mabuhay, and maligayang pagbabalik sa aking channel. Today, we'll be reacting to a video called 10 mistakes expats make when moving to the Philippines, part 1. And since I'm interested in the Philippines, but I'm also interested in visiting the Philippines, I thought it would be interesting to learn more about the Philippines and about people that decide to move to the Philippines. I mean, who knows? Maybe one day it will happen. You know what I'm saying? But before we continue on, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Music Game News, because that is where you can DM me your suggestions. And without further ado, let's get to it.
What's up, savvy expats? Today, here on part 1, we're tackling 10 mistakes expats make when moving to the Philippines. By knowing these 10 mistakes, you'll save yourself a lot of pain, struggle, heartaches, headaches, and time that many expats fail to avoid. Now, without wasting your time, let's get into it. Mistake number 1 that expats make when moving to the Philippines, that is running away from home. Whether it be financial struggles, legal problems, or broken relationships, it's needless to say that many expats move to the Philippines to bury that. But the thing is, it's like putting your skeletons back in the closet with your clothes. Eventually, you're gonna have to open it back up, and it will come.
And face them, you know, head on. Of course, you have to fix that before moving to the Philippines. Otherwise, they will always come back
to haunt you. Now, it's one thing to move abroad because your country is going to oblivion. It's another thing to run away and think it's going to solve all your problems. That is why
He's basically saying do not run away to another country because of personal issues. If, your country, you know, is in trouble, sure.
I say, if you're not happier in your own country, don't expect to be any happier in the Philippines. That is, unless you're working a dead-end job, you're tired of the rat race, and you genuinely hate life in your country. In that case, come over to the Philippines. But even despite that, happiness comes from within. It all depends on your perspective. And so
You can go to the Philippines if you like heat.
Stress it enough. One of the worst reasons to move to the Philippines is if you're trying to escape your problems. Yes, it may seem like an instant solution, but running away will not solve all of your problems. It may solve some, like leaving a stressful job, getting out of the cold, and ending broken relationships to find new ones. But more often than not, your major problems will follow you wherever you go. So if it was hard for you to deal with your problems in your home country where life is familiar, what more when you move to a foreign country where life is out of your comfort zone? It's like adding fuel to the fire. Money and legal problems will not just disappear, and it'll only be waiting for you when you return. That is why it is imperative for you to take care of your business before you move to the Philippines. That way you're not worried and anxious about it when you get here. Now, for these second mistakes expats make when moving to the Philippines,
I agree with his first point.
That is, they don't keep their boots on the ground. If you know my boy Calvin from Sunshine Shoulders, then you know that this is a fundamental principle for expats. This basically means that despite the adjustments and uncomfortable trials you may face when first moving to the Philippines, you stick it out. Because I won't lie, you will go through culture shocks. You may be uncomfortable with the way of life. The methodical, slow pace of life may be too slow for you. You will get annoyed about how things are ran here. And overall, you're experiencing a completely different way of life that you have to adapt to. No one said that moving to a new country was easy, but it certainly doesn't have to be hard either. And so upon facing the initial challenges of adjusting to life in the Philippines, you may crack and want to book a flight and leave. But this is where expats make mistakes.
Okay, so he means don't choose the easy way out. Like as soon as, you know, you start basically missing your country and how things are run in your country, don't run away from the Philippines. Like, get used to the Philippines. Stay there for a while. Learn the culture, the tradition. You know, get used to it, basically.
They don't like the first 2 months of living here, and so they leave. I'm telling you from personal experience, it's almost as if there's
2 months is not enough. I'd say at least 6 months. At least 6 months. Personally, I know that I won't have a problem enjoying myself in the Philippines because the Philippines and Algeria have a lot in common. You guys have no idea. Just weather-wise, Algeria can get extremely hot. I mean, we have the Sahara, right? The desert. So there you go. Two, we kind of have the same mentality. He mentioned the slow-paced way of life. We also have that. And I've talked to so many Filipinos and we share so many little things, you know. I'm sure I will enjoy myself there, but I think he's talking more to Westerners, you know, like this video is dedicated to maybe Europeans and Americans and Canadians. True, I am Canadian, but not by birth, right? Like I got my papers and stuff, so it's different and I've gotten used to the life here. So I may feel, you know, a small culture shock, but I will get used to it pretty fast.
A timeline of testing, and if you keep your boots on the ground and you stick it out past that timeline, then it's smooth sailing from there. I've never mentioned this, but it almost took me a year to adapt to the way of life and the culture here. My first year here.
Oh, okay, so he's a Filipino that did not used to live in the Philippines. Okay, so that's why he's talking from experience. Okay.
It was very uncomfortable at times, and I even thought that life in the US was way better.
Okay,
the sight of poverty, poor infrastructure, and interacting with the locals here was something that was hard to adjust to.
Well, there you go. That's basically how I feel every time I go back to Algeria because we also do have poor infrastructure. And I mean, I'm Algerian, I was born there and I lived there, so I'm used to it. And I'm also used to talking to the locals. I mean, I'm one of them. So I don't struggle in that aspect, but see, these are also similarities between Philippines and Algeria. We also have poor infrastructures and the locals also, you have to get used to them basically.
But because we already made the move and we kept our boots on the ground, after that 1 year of discomfort, the Philippines began to grow on me. I began to compare apples to apples, our lifestyle of being able to live stress-free and eat out whenever we please, how much cheaper it is here, less chaos, a relaxing environment, how much safer I feel here than in the US.
Well, see, that's not a problem that I have here in Canada, Montreal. I feel extremely safe in Montreal here, but good to know that people feel safe in the Philippines, especially thanks to President Duterte, who really helped make the country safer.
I started to understand the people more here too. Basically, my perspective was broadened. And so with time, you will adjust, but the initial stages of moving to the Philippines may be uncomfortable and may not be easy for some of you. Through the period of adapting to the Philippines, keep your boots on the ground and remember why you
See, I did not know this expression, boots on the ground.
Moved here. Now for mistake number 3 for expats moving to the Philippines, that is falling in love too soon. As the saying goes, love is blind. There are countless stories of guys getting burned here by women for financial reasons, for citizenship,
gold diggers, be careful,
reasons, but despite that, they still decide to ignore it. But because they're blinded by love, they say that that will never happen to them and that their girlfriend is different. Look, many Filipinas are trustworthy women, but you need to watch out for those that are only with you for their personal gain. Whether they're only with you to drain you of your money, get a citizenship, or drain you of your money, you have to watch out for these things. Some red flags is if your girlfriend is asking you to invest in business ventures. Not only do most businesses fail here, but you already know that she told everybody and their mom that a foreigner with money has come into town. Or if she's constantly asking for money because her dad is sick and her mom fell down a flight of stairs, then that's a red flag. Honestly, I shouldn't have to explain this. Most of you guys have been around longer than I have to know this, but you let a different head control you. I don't.
Hey, I didn't see you there. Well, now that you're here, why don't you celebrate for making it this far into this video by subscribing to the channel, by turning on that notification bell so that you don't miss any future videos, and of course, and the most important thing, to like this video because it does help out the channel tremendously. And now, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go back to my business. You let a different head control you. This guy.
Know what's so complicated about this. If most guys would just use their brain, then they wouldn't get burned like this. Now for the fourth mistake that expats make when moving to the Philippines, that is bringing the dollar mentality. The dollar mentality causes three things. 1, it causes expats to overspend. 2, it causes expats to think everything is a deal. And 3, it causes expats to think that they own everything. First off, it causes expats to overspend because they think that due to the exchange rate, they have all the money in the world. And even in some cases, they get sold lies that they can come here to the Philippines and live like a king on $500 per month because of that exchange rate. When in reality, while cost of living in the Philippines is cheap overall, it's not as cheap as many expats make it out to be, especially if you still want to attain a westernized lifestyle. So in turn, expats spend on frivolous things because in their mind, they have endless money here. Secondly, it causes expats to think that everything is a deal because most things are cheaper here in the Philippines. But you have to get into the habit of not thinking of prices from an American perspective, but from a Filipino perspective. After all, you're in the Philippines, and buying everything that you think is a deal will add up. And even at times, you may get overcharged at markets, for example, when in reality, locals are paying 2 times less than you are. So thinking in terms of pesos instead of dollars will not only save you a lot, but it will also familiarize you with the cost of living here. Now, for the fifth mistake that expats make, that is they don't...
But that takes time. It takes time to rehabilitate your mind to think in pesos, right? It's tough.
Keep an open mind.
Don't keep an open mind. What does that mean?
It's so easy to get into the habit of comparing the Philippines to where you're from. But you must understand that it is crucial to keep an open mind here. You may not like...
But he just said... Wait. Let me rewind.
Living here. Now, for the fifth mistake that expats make, that is they don't keep an open...
It's that they don't keep an open mind. Okay. So you have to keep an open mind. Yeah.
I'll tell you, it's so easy to get into the habit of comparing the Philippines to where you're from. But you must understand that it is crucial to keep an open mind here. You may not like how things are ran here.
That's what scares me the most in the Philippines. Honestly,
understand that it is crucial to keep an open mind here.
The traffic. There are 2 things that I don't like, that I've experienced elsewhere, in Algeria, in Kenya and stuff. The traffic and bugs. I hate bugs. I don't like bugs. So these are the 2 things that really bother me.
You may not like how things are ran here. You may get annoyed at the pace of life, and there will be several different things to adjust to. But from the get-go, ingrain it in your mind that you're in a completely new country with a completely different way of life. You can't get all the upsides that you came here for without at some point experiencing some of the downsides. And so by keeping an open mind to the people and the culture, you will adapt exponentially faster to the Philippines. Now moving on to the sixth mistake that expats make, that is underestimating the cost of living. So many expats...
Well, that's kind of the same thing as the other point about thinking in pesos and not in dollar, so that you don't overspend.
Come here on vacation, seeing that prices are cheaper than home, so when they come here moving to the Philippines, they think that prices will be dirt cheap. The fact of the matter is, the Philippines does have low cost of living, but it's not dirt cheap. You cannot live on $500 and live like a king, and those who say that they can is probably thinking of a different type of king. And even for us, living in BGC is cheaper than in the US, but it's still on par with Western cost of living. It's important to plan with a higher budget than you think you'll need for peace of mind. A lot of expats come here with the mentality that I'm only gonna spend $1,000 because my favorite YouTuber says I only need $1,000. But unless you're living completely single, life on $1,000 is not ideal for most expats. So the misconception that the Philippines
$1,000 a month, right?
is dirt cheap is untrue, and it leads to disappointment for many expats when moving here. Now, for the seventh mistake that expats make when moving here is thinking that differences are no big deal. While there are differences that can easily be ignored, there are others that can. Whether you're planning on sending your kids to school here and it's not up to your standard, or you can't trust the healthcare in the Philippines, these differences can be a real deal breaker. While here on vacation, you may have felt that the cultural differences were just subtle. But when you're moving to the Philippines for good, things tend to take on more importance when you're living with them every single day. Moving on to the
I wish he had given us an example about that.
Eighth mistake that expats make that is they don't do their research. This is one of the most common mistakes that expats make. It is essential that you thoroughly research this country before moving here.
That's something that you should do whenever you decide to travel anywhere in the world, okay? Like, do your research thoroughly, you know, about the environment, the new environment that you're gonna land in, you know, the people, how do they act, the traditions, the culture, so that you don't make mistakes and you are respectful, you know, to them. You know, check if you have to get a vaccine or something, because you don't know, maybe in some countries they have, like, I don't know, malaria or something like that, and you have to, you know, get protection against that. So yeah, do your research.
Here, as this is no small decision. Nail down where you want to live, your plans on traveling to different places, what you want to be near.
Especially nowadays that we have all the information, you know, accessible to us via the internet, via Google, via YouTube, via everything. Like, we have no more excuses. When I was a kid, we didn't have the internet, so it was really hard to get that information. We had to ask people who had already traveled to the country we want to travel to, or check, I don't know, on the you know, the newspaper and magazines, and I don't know, the dictionary. It was tough.
What hospitals you want access to. All of these things should be planned out beforehand. Not to mention, rules, customs, and culture is different here, so researching that beforehand will help you to adapt easier.
Yup.
Now for mistake number 9 that expats make, that is not exploring options.
Meaning?
Researching and watching the Philippines through a screen can only take you so far, so by actually traveling to different areas in the Philippines, you can find which place is for you. While Manila may not be your cup of tea, living outside of it in the province may be more to your liking. So in order to find your ideal place, you want to be able to compare different parts of the Philippines. You don't want to...
Yeah, again, you can apply this to any country.
Only stay in one place when you get to the Philippines. Meanwhile, there's a better place out there for you. Now for the 10th and final mistake, that is waiting to be approached. When it comes to feeling welcome in this country, Filipinos have a way of naturally welcoming foreigners. But if you're looking to make friends, most Filipinos won't approach you. Be it their English isn't so good, they're intimidated, or they're not familiar with your culture, Filipinos may be shy to talk to you. So I suggest to interact with Filipinos, say hi to them first to strike up a conversation. Because chances are they genuinely want to get to know you, but they have a perception that foreigners are rude in their mind. By you approaching them...
Is that true? You guys have that perception that foreigners are rude?
It's more likely that they'll feel open to you and feel more comfortable. So there you have it, savvy expats. Those are 10 mistakes.
Okay, so this was part 1. He has a part 2. If this video does well and you guys give it a nice thumbs up, I will definitely react to part 2. I haven't looked it up. I don't know if he uploaded it already, but I actually enjoyed his video, although some of the reasons, you know, can be applied to any country. But this last one is very interesting. I did not know that Filipinos, you know, did not make the first step, because I got the feeling that Filipinos were very welcoming, and that doesn't mean that they're not if they don't make the first step. But I thought that, you know, it was easy for them to make the first step. That's good to know. But I also did not know that they thought that foreigners were maybe rude. I don't know if that's true. Please confirm in the comment section below. But I honestly don't think that I will have a hard time in the Philippines. I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I've learned so much about the Philippines already, you know. I'm kind of even trying to get the same accent as you guys and everything. I think I'll be just fine. And also, when I travel to the Philippines, because I'm not traveling to move to the Philippines, I'm gonna travel to visit the Philippines, and hopefully I won't be alone. I don't like traveling by myself. Hopefully I'll have someone with me. And yeah, it's always easier to travel with someone. There you go. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on this video. Maraming salamat po. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves. Have a great day. Stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Subscribe here, and please like the video to show your support and appreciation for my work, and turn on the notification bell to be poked for future content. Yeah.